Hi folks, this is all the fruit. I'm in the little village of Igueste de San Andres in Tenerife. And this village is famous throughout the whole island of Tenerife. You might have guessed it, for its cultivation of subtropical fruit. Nowadays, the cultivation of subtropical fruit is something quite normal throughout the island of Tenerife, but it seems that it wasn't always like this. And it seems that a lot of it started or was performed for quite long periods in this village of Igueste, with a lot of immigrants or people who came back from South America. And so yeah, even nowadays it's quite unusual to see a village on the island of Tenerife where the mango is the main crop. We are here at the northeastern end, at the northeastern tip of the island of Tenerife. Behind those hills, after about 1.5 kilometers is the northeastern tip of the island. So it means we are in the extreme north of Tenerife, but we are still on the south coast, and that's important because while a lot of those subtropical fruit trees can grow in the north, the real tasty sweet fruit develop on the southern slopes. Yeah, we are here in the mountains of Anaga, which are actually famous for their laurisilva or their laurel forest. However, if you want to see the laurel forest, you have to go up to the highest ridge of the Anaga Mountains. Actually, most of the Anaga Mountains are barren slopes and those wonderful valleys, which consists of, well, mostly barren slopes with euphorbias, beautiful subtropical gardens in the lower parts of the valleys, and beautiful little creeks with, yeah, beautiful little palms and reeds and so on in the upper parts of the valleys. I wonder why the Anaga Mountains are mostly famous for their laurisilva and not so much for their beautiful valleys. People go to the Barranco de Masca or the Barranco del Infierno, but there are a number of valleys which are just as beautiful here. All of those valleys have a cultivation of subtropical fruit trees, but none is as famous as the valley of Igueste. I'll try to show you a bit of the stuff they grow here. I cannot show you everything, or this will be a very long clip, but let's see what we can find. By the way, the village of Igueste is built on a steep slope, so most of it is actually only accessible by foot, or yeah, of course they take their motorbikes too, but basically, except for a couple main roads, the whole village is accessible only by foot or by bike. So let's see what we have here. Monstera deliciosa, the delicious monster fruit for those brave enough to try it. Mangoes, mangoes, mangoes everywhere. There is a lot of the small yellow Gomera mango growing here. For me, this is another sign that the mango cultivation here is quite traditional. Gomera seems to be quite an old and traditional variety here. Here I see a couple of them in the shade. I don't know if you can see them. There is a little bit of sunlight on one quite yellowish mango, but most of them are in the shade. As I said, the season is over. You can still harvest a couple, but not so many right now. Here a Plumeria alba and the dead tobacco tree, Nicotiana glauca. Here the endemic dragon tree. Down there an olive. Here olive cultivation is basically just as an ornamental. I think very few people actually do something with the olives. A small chirimoya tree, which already lost most of its leaves. Here's a more tree tobacco. This was actually used for smoking in previous centuries, but nowadays it's not popular anymore. There are several types of bananas here, including the typical dwarf Cavendish of the Canary Islands. Then some taller bananas, which seem to be some plantains actually, and some really tiny Cavendish plants which rarely reach 2 meters, which must have some separate name. Here a black mulberry tree, Morus nigra. Those are being used, for example, to make wine. Here, Passiflora edulis, the passion fruit, with some unripe fruit growing here in the shade. Let's see if we can find a beautiful flower. No flower, and all the fruit seem to be in the shade. Well, there are a couple fruit in the shade. There is a flower, or a bud at least. So let's walk down there. Every square meter or square foot of or square inch in the valley is being used for cultivating fruit. Actually, when I look down from the higher slopes, I could see that there were growing potatoes literally on the beach up to 2 meters from the sea. Really crazy. I don't think I've ever seen anything cultivated that close to the sea. Mangoes, tons of mangoes. Here are the monstera. Here are a couple smallish monstera fruit. There seems to be a small and a big variety of monstera. I see a lot of plants here in Tenerife with small fruit. Some geranium. Some manioc. Yeah, manioc is still being grown in Tenerife. Here we have some plumbago auriculata. Here some small bananas, papayas, and some avocados. Aloe vera, also an important crop of the Canary Islands. Opancha ficus indica, the most important cactus commercially. Here are those really tall banana plants. There must be some type of plantains. I don't know if you can see in the background there are some Cavendish bananas, which are like a third or sometimes even less than a quarter of the size of those big bananas in the foreground. So I guess this is what they call platano macho here, and it's some sort of plantain, while the normal banana they just call platano. And those are the small bananas, the small banana plants in the background. Here are some native asparagus species. Don't even know which this is. And here, don't confuse agave and aloe. Here they grow together, and actually with every single rosette or every single leaf you have to check if you have agave or aloe. Here again, the two different banana varieties or species next to each other. On the right, the dwarf Cavendish, and here on the left, what must be some plantain, several times taller. Lantana camara, the thickberry. Some consider it toxic, others consider it edible. Yeah, I've never seen so many of those big bananas growing here. This seems to be another indication that there are lots of people from Latin America here, or people who came back after decades of Latin America. Actually, cooking bananas are not so popular in the cuisine of the Canary Islands. They eat a lot of bananas, much more than in Europe, but they don't cook them so much. So if there are so many cooking plantains around here, that means there must be a lot of Latinos who actually cook them a lot more. Here some, I think that those are some mandarins or oranges, I cannot tell for sure. Chinus mole, the Peruvian pepper or pink peppercorn tree. Here, an Opancha ficus indica. Season was very bad this year, but at least this has two good fruit. 1, 2, 3, 4. This has several good fruit. Not bad. Not bad at all. On this one plant I saw more good fruit than I see here typically in a week this year. So, let's see what else we got here. As I said, mangoes are the main crop of the village. Mangoes everywhere, and mostly the small Gomera variety as far as I can see. Oh, here we seem to have giant passion fruit. Well, first some dwarf bananas and some sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, or patatas as they call them here, are a very typical crop of the Anaga Mountains. They seem to grow very well in the climate of the cool highlands, but they also grow them here in the hot valleys. Well, I can see a little coffee shrub, but I don't think you can see it very well in the shade. So here we have Passiflora edulis, but here a little bit further there is actually Passiflora quadrangularis, the giant passion fruit. Let's look at them. Passiflora edulis with the typical green fruit. They are already well developed, just not ripe, and the typical trilobate leaves. And here, let me see, there are some fruit which look like Passiflora edulis, but the leaves around them are Passiflora quadrangularis. Well, no, there are a couple vines of edulis growing into this quadrangularis plant. So this is Passiflora quadrangularis. Up there is even a flower, but I guess you cannot see much against the sky. Well, here one of those typical little Anaga valleys, a little bit upstream where there's not so much agriculture and not so many walls and fences. Those valleys are beautiful, some of the most beautiful valleys I've seen anywhere in the world. Let's see here again, quadrangularis plants, but no fruit and no flowers. What a pity. Here again, yeah, this is all quadrangularis. There were lots of mamea trees, but we are not getting too close to any of those Mamea americana trees. There is a small Mamea tree there growing between the big mangoes, but it's a bit far away. There is a huge Mamea tree with nice big fruit, probably almost ripe, growing there. Let me see if I thought on this side of the river, of the little stream, I would see more things, but it seems, well, no, on the other side I wouldn't have been able to see them very well. So here two really giant Mamea trees. I hope you can see the brown balls, those are the fruit. To the underneath the Mamea trees there is a fig, Ficus indica. Here, where did I see this? Look at that. Those are huge bunches of mangoes growing on this mango tree. Not mangas, but mangoes. They grow like grapes, basically like 20 or more in a single bunch. On the next tree over there too, yeah, this really looks like the variety Gomera. Look here, a lot of them were shed on the ground, but still they are like 20 to every bunch. Those will be really small, those will be the size of plums, but probably they will still sell them. So here, a mango tree in flower. You can actually get mango nectar. The mango tree is a very good nectar producer. Let's see what else we have here. Is this an avocado? Looks a little bit strange, but I think it might be an avocado. Here again, the mango flowers. I hope you can see the numerous bees and flies and wasps flying around them. Here there is some Fabaceae growing. What is this Fabaceae? I forgot the name, but it's a type of, yeah, really bean-like thing. I don't think it's the normal bean. It's a different species. But look at that. The leaves basically look like bean. The flowers look like bean. And the fruit look like beans. And I think it's being used in the same way. I just forgot the Latin name of this thing. Here, a look over the village. Oh, there is a mamia. Wait, let me get closer and let me try to show you a couple fruit. This video is gonna get pretty long, but as I said, the village is really famous for its tropical fruit, even in a tropical fruit island like Tenerife. So I think it's worth the effort. Here you have Mamea americana. It seems to be a very popular tree of the Cuban immigrants. And look here at the bananas. In the foreground there is some tiny variety. The biggest ones are like 1.30 meters. And in the background there are some giant bananas which are over 7 meters tall, which are most probably cooking plantains. Mangoes, mangoes, mangoes everywhere. And there's only one ripe mango. Mamea is not so popular with the European immigrants to the Canaries because, well, it tastes more or less like an apricot. And here you can grow apricots, and you can also import apricots from the peninsula, from Spain, very easily. So for the European immigrants there is not a good reason to cultivate Mamea, but for the Cuban immigrants it seems to be really a part of their lifestyle. Here manioc with the typical fruit. Here in the back, well, not in the background, but there is a loquat. Behind this mango there seems to be a wall covered with the grapevine, and there seem to be ripe grapes on it. Funny, here the grape harvest should have ended a long time ago. Here is some quite, this could be the giant avocado variety, but since the tree hasn't been fertilized or watered, they are not really giant. They are just a little bit bigger than average. Here another papaya. Bananas. Yeah, I've never seen so many cooking plantains. It's like a 50-50 between dessert bananas and cooking plantains. Here again, plantains. This is really a sign for immigrants from Latin America, because they are really fond of those cooking plantains. Here again, short dessert bananas and cooking plantains. Ricinus. Really toxic. I don't know why they tolerate it here. Let's see what we have here. Here another mamea. Corn. They don't grow corn on a large scale anymore, but it's still very popular in the fresh state here on the Canary Islands. Now we're already approaching the beach. Most of the plots near the beach look half abandoned or abandoned, like those here. But originally all this was cultivated, and there are actually a few ones very, very close to the sea which are being cultivated. I'm quite sure that the bananas here are for local consumption. I don't think those are for export. I don't think that those are like the big banana plantations. So let's see, yeah. I don't know why the plots near the sea were abandoned. Is it coincidence, or is it that this saline land was of lesser quality? But most of them are abandoned. Oh, up there seems to be some really old sugar cane, but I doubt you can see it from here. Well, look. This is the sea, and all this right up to a couple meters from the sea was being cultivated, and a part of it still is. Here you can see again the contrast between the desert-like slopes, which after the forests were cut down, they were only good for grazing goats, and this fertile valley, which is like a little paradise. I guess they did not even have a road until a couple decades ago, but just could come here by boat or by donkey. So here, look at that. They are growing potatoes and corn and pumpkins, literally. Well, okay, let's say 5 meters away from the waves. And of course, when there is a storm, the waves just come into their plot, and I guess those certain conditions are not really so good for the crops. I guess this is why most of the plots near the sea were abandoned. Okay, folks, this was a pretty long video, but I think it was worth it. This is Igueste de San Andres, the little village of Latino immigrants and people who returned from South and Central America with their famous tropical and subtropical fruit trees. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful island of Tenerife. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.